Welcome viewers, Sydney Harbour, 18-footer racing, Camera Cat, New South Wales Championship Race 2, Sunday 29 November 2020. Folks, wherever you're listening from, Sydney's experiencing some pretty interesting things today. Winds are up around 30 knots, air temperature about 40 centigrade, which for you people in Fahrenheit is about 104 F. With me today, I'm Andrew Buckland, with me today on the Camera Cat. In the driving position, Vaughan Waldrich. Bringing the pictures, AeroMedia, John O'Witty, Michael Chittenden and Anthony Rose. And in commentary today, Lisa Darmanin. Welcome, Lisa.
It's good to be here. I think we're going to have an exciting day, but it sounds like the race is slightly postponed.
Yeah, the committee is trying to, with an approaching cold front, we've got a very solid west-northwest wind flow. The committee's trying to arbitrage their way to the least wind they can find this afternoon, with a cold front expected sometime after 5 p.m, a little hour-and-a-half window, and try and get a race in. Probably going to be not more than about half a dozen starters, and we're looking at the boat park from the Camera Cat. We're afloat, but we have seen bits of wind in excess of 30 knots. So stand by for some thrills and spills. Until such time as the boats get afloat, we're just going to give you pictures, and but we'll try to be back as soon as there's something worth talking about. Standing by.
Okay, so you should see images of the 18s just leaving the beach. From our eyes, we can see 5 boats that are attempting to leave the shore. I think today, if you can get off the shore, then you should get around the racetrack, as it is pretty swirly and crazy in here. We'll have Bucko bring us all the boats that are coming on the water today and who's who in the zoo.
Who is who in the zoo? On the SMEG, Michael Cox and Ricky Bridge, Trent Barnabas. Appliances online. Simon Noddy Hung on the main sheet and Brandon Bonick in the bow. The Oak Four Pines standard crew, Aaron Everett, Courtney Marr and Matt Coots. Winning group, slight change today. Sebi on the wood, John Winning Jr. not here, Tommy Anderson on the main sheet and Sam Newton in the bow. And the Evergreen, Yandu, John Winning, Jasper Warren and Mike Kennedy at full strength. So we think that's all of the starters. As we mentioned in the beginning of the coverage, and we'll just recap on the weather. Sydney today, 40 centigrade, which is a bit above a tonne in Fahrenheit. Wind speed at the moment west, perhaps west-northwest, 18 to 30 would cover most of the range, Liz.
Pretty big range to deal with, that's for sure, but also wind direction. So the teams are just trying to get off the beach at the moment. We can see that Appliances Online is actually on their side, and it's pretty hard to get these things off the beach on a good day, but when we've got 60-degree shifts in here, they've got plenty on. So yeah, very tricky day on the water, but it's not really going to be about the tactics or strategy. It's going to be about surviving today. And
most of you would notice that the skiffs are wearing reefed mainsails and storm jibs, as if they've stolen them from some other boat, about the size of a 49er jib perhaps. So there's a fair bit of optimism that they'll get around the track, but the race committee haven't seen the course flags yet, but the committee probably going to give them just a 2-lapper, we would expect, not in the maximum airstream if possible. We have seen puffs earlier today up around 40, so pretty much at the limit for 18-footer racing.
Just trying to keep the 18 up in a straight line will be hard enough today, but what are the pinch points of the race to watch out for?
Getting downwind to the start line without setting shoot, that would be one tricky problem, wouldn't it? And then, of course, the bear away at the windward mark, and to some degree the dial up at the bottom, but if you can get 2 good bearaways stuck, you might get near the podium, I would suggest, yes?
I guess today's a day that you don't really want to have too many different people in different positions on the boat because, coordinating those 3 people is going to be key.
Yeah, you better be pretty reflexive and people in their accustomed roles today. And for the viewers, just the winner of the first heat of the championship, Tech 2, I think you might be able to see him on screen there, on the trailer. So they've taken the view that they didn't want to sail with a reef in the mainsail, and that they would conserve their equipment, knowing that with sail limitation rules and other factors, damage today might not be too recoverable. So from last week, Winning Group was disqualified for being OCS under the U flag. And they'll be able to make amends, one would think, today and get back on even terms with Tech 2, more or less.
Just struggling to get out of the moorings at this stage. Reaching across there on the power zone with 5 to 30 knots is not your ideal send to the start line.
No, and the start line we think's downwind of where we are, so then they have to do a bear away and get down towards Rose Bay. So the course axis will be lined up towards the CBD from Rose Bay for today. So the weather models have and the reality is a strong-ish cold front coming up the coast, expected to arrive in Sydney around 5 p.m, 1700 hours, which is after we'd expect the racing will be finished, and the committee's been obviously looking at that in anticipation to some degree. Expectation from the models is that the west-northwest flow will soften a little and enable them to get around. And, I guess in principle, at least, from my own view is that, we should always try to get a race in, and certainly back in history we had some monumental days where with a 4 rig set up instead of the 2 rig, sort of 2.5 rig setup we've got now, we could get round and wind speeds up to about 40 knots.
I mean, that's a pretty big wind range. Not many people have the luxury of being able to change rigs like that. And I guess when the wind is up like that, it makes it an easy decision to know what sails to put in. Yeah. But we've got appliances online on the screen now just trying to right their boat. Rudders are in, centreboard's ready to go, but they're just struggling.
Not a bad technique. Tip it over, put the rudder and centreboard on, stand it back upright, you know, perhaps.
There's worse ways to do it.
That's right. One monumental day, we were racing 18s down in Henley Beach in South Australia, which is hardly the ideal place for the nice surf out the front. And we got out to the start line in about 35 knots sou'wester. And the committee put the answering pennant up and we were sailing around in circles in 18 in 35, which is not your leisure activity. And as it turned out, the rescue boat had sunk getting out through the surf. So there's an unusual, and they had to abandon the racing for the day to retrieve their rescue boat and have a rescue boat at all, in fact.
I don't know if you can see on the screen now, but Smeg is going in the water now. They've got about 8 guys trying to wrangle the 18 down the ramp. Lots of extra hands on deck with a few boats sitting on shore. So another boat hitting the water, which is good to see. Appliances online still battling to get their boat up. So if they can't leave the shore, they're going to have pretty big trouble trying to get around that racetrack.
No, this might be the swirly wind. I mean, at least out on the track, it looks pretty solid, doesn't it? Like, we stuck on the camera boat, we stuck our nose past the point, and about 10 minutes ago, and it was certainly pretty robust. But it looked, you know.
The wind's just sort of dropping out of the sky at the moment, coming from nowhere and being so close to shore, you can't really see it coming. So the poor guy that's trying to hold the boat into the wind has quite a bit on at the moment. So.
They'll eventually sail it backwards if they have to.
Just get ready to bail, Vaughan, if they...
It is difficult, but on the main sheet of appliances today, Noddy Hay, Lisa, he's got a formidable reputation and well-deserved, so one of
knows what he's doing.
Yeah, one of the very best.
So Yandu and Winnings have made it out to the racetrack area. As Bucko mentioned, we did poke our heads out earlier, and it is quite breezy, but the chop isn't too bad at the moment compared to what they might have experienced a few weeks back. You had a pretty gnarly race a few weeks back with only a few boats competing. Who were the ones to watch on those days?
At least the chop wasn't bad compared to Bass Strait. No, you're right. Yeah, no, a couple of weeks ago, and no doubt many of the viewers have seen the footage. We saw Noakes, oh my God, Noakes, Tech 2, Yandu and Winning Group make a pretty good fist of it. And Tech 2 won pretty convincingly that day in a 30 knot southerly. John Winning told me afterwards I'd underestimated the wind speed. How could that have happened, do you think?
Tech 2 have nothing to prove today, but Vintech, I heard, made it just out of the moorings a couple of weeks ago, but they're not making a go of it today.
Yeah, so, you know, one of the newbie crews on the Vintech, they did have a crack, and they learned a bit about capsizing and getting back upright again, you know. Tom Koenig, Alex Marinelli and Flynn Twomey. And they're not that easy because of the self-tacker. They're a little bit more difficult to get upright than they should be because there's a restraint on the amount of travel in the jib sheet. And so you sort of almost have a little bit of jib setting as you come upright, which is not ideal.
The jib's really the thing that's going to pull you over in the skiffs, isn't it?
Well, not on the Barraway. But with these reefs, the Barraway shouldn't be a problem. But you know, the height of the centre of effort with that big deep reef is pretty good. But they do have a bit of a problem with lee helm going upwind because the head stay, you know, the fore stays in the same place, even though the jib's small, still generating plenty of force, and the front of the wing, if you like, is still in the same place, and the back of the wing's moved forward by whatever that is, quite a bit.
So they've got a reef in. Is that about a metre of reef of the sail?
More than a metre, that one. I think it's 1,200. 1.2 metres.
Solid amount of sail area moving down
Yeah.
the mast.
Yeah. But there is a bit of a problem in that it's pretty hard to get the luff round to be satisfactory with and without a reef, and it's the same sail, so it's not like a keelboat where you pre-bend the rig so that it's absolutely, you know, modern carbon rig. In a keelboat you can get the rig pre-bent so that it's even curve the whole way, so putting a reef in is of no consequence, luff curve wise.
Here goes Meg, sending it out the harbour. Appliances online are also just upright, but big puffs coming through the launching area.
Yeah, so at least in the SMEG today we've got Michael Croxton, Ricky Bridge and Trent Barnabas. As much experience as you can possibly imagine. So I'm looking forward to watching those guys.
Sounds like everyone that's heading out today has plenty of experience under their belt. They know what they're doing, and some of the young kids may have stayed on shore.
Yeah, the young kids are on the spectator ferry, more or less, aren't they? I think. Or watching us, perhaps, who knows?
In general, though, it's been like there's a lot of new young teams around, so they should have fun watching today, but not taking the chances with their equipment today.
Yeah, you can rack up a good damage bill. Wow, and those SMEG just copped one. Sorry, not on the screen.
Oh, you can just see how tippy it is. I don't know if you can see the dark patches on the water, but we've got 0 knots to 20 knots in a heartbeat. So really, really tough conditions for these teams to get out onto the race course. Just everyone in the boat trying to hang on, and then bang, big gusts on, and there's not much they can do in that situation. We might let these guys get up and try head out onto the race course and see what action we can bring you. See if anyone has actually made it down to the start.
What's the blue boat on its side down there, Luz?
Looks like Winnings hasn't really made it far past to the race course either. They've made it about, I don't know, 500 metres. Smeg's made it 400 and Appliances 300. So Yandu's probably chilling around at the start line now saying, come on boys, put the flag up. We've got about 10 minutes to go until the start. All eyes are on Smeg, just trying to get out of this.
Smeg getting bashed, but they might be advised perhaps to sort of get the bow down first and then sneak down towards the point. But if you're watching on screen there, Smeg and Winning Group just upright, or trying to get upright in the background.
Consistent breeze is definitely going to be welcomed in about 300 metres time, but it is pretty windy still. We've probably got averaging in the high 20s, early 30s from our eyes, and right now we've got Smeg on screen sitting in 0 knots, so they're just ready for anything right now, and just probably want to get out there and see what they're in for. How did Smeg go a couple of weeks back in the breeze, Bucko?
No, they had a bit of trouble. They did finish, but...
So in the back of your screen now, you should see Winning Group flapping back. They're actually coming towards us. I think they've just righted the boat. So they're probably going to try tack over and do a bear away, or we'll just move forward so we can see what they're doing. Yep, so they're flicked over. We'll probably see both these boats come out a little bit and then attempt that lovely bear away towards the start line, which we think is going to happen at Shark Island. But as we can see over our shoulder, and you'll see on Smeg in just a moment, there is a smoking hot gust coming. The water is white and the water is being blown off the top of the surface. So watch and see what happens.
Watch and dream. A bit of solid 35 on the face of that, and Smeg is looking like they're making a bit of a fist of it, but they're not in the sustained breeze yet. Winning Group having to sail upwind, and for the viewers, we would need to understand that you can always sail upwind in these boats. At the limit, you can't get the bow down to go downwind, so the challenge considerable. Winning Group using full riding moment, going upwind, and a little lull now. They might be able to get away here.
Smeg just about to hit the breeze, but we'll go over to winning group, see what they are up to, whether they're going to attempt to turn the corner. But they, in a straight line, they look pretty comfortable. Sails nice and twisted, ragging occasionally, but that reef's really paying dividends right now.
Yeah.
Here we go now, Smeg into the full brunt of the breeze. They look pretty comfortable after they've been able to get out of those puffy conditions. But yeah, it is all on out here.
Comfortable being a relative measure, Lisa, I guess.
Well, legs are pretty wide, trying to hang on, riding it like a wild horse, I think, at the moment.
Bit of water skiing, a bit of wide stance, it's all good.
It is still pretty hot out here, though, so those occasional windward dips in the water, I'm sure, are welcomed by the crews.
Oh.
Do you want me to try and get the boat dry or chase them?
Wow.
Here we go, going for the bear away. Absolutely nailing it, no problems there by Smeg.
Turning.
You really got to pick your timing on a day like today.
Just need a bit of patience, don't we?
So we're heading down to the course with Smeg. They had a glamour bear away over our shoulder. Winnings is still challenging to bear away, but we have a huge gust coming on Smeg now. That is definitely 35 knots plus.
Yeah, water lifting off now, which is probably above the range in which they can successfully race. But the weather models were anticipating this softening. That doesn't seem to be the case, Lisa, does it?
Definitely not. We were out here about half an hour ago, and I thought, no problems, averaging 27, these guys will be fine. But now we have absolutely heaps on out here. I did say that the wave state wasn't much, but now I'm going to take back that comment and say there is plenty of chop out here, making it interesting for the teams. Looking back up towards the club, Appliances Online is capsized once again, so they are really struggling to get out of the moorings, but valiant effort by them by even getting their toes in the water. So it's going to be plenty of action, probably a few drills and spills. Smeg looks very comfortable going downwind there, no problems at all by them. Well, they're making it look easy, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't think comfort entered into the equation too well, but here we go. So
Well, they're going to be having a lot of fun.
Yeah, oh, no doubt. Yeah. No, I think we should pay some respect to the notion that that it does take a bit of courage to sail these boats in this wind speed, and injuries are not an unknown phenomenon. Let's put it that way. But and for the viewers, we've just taken the drone down. And it looks like there's so much wind and spray that we're above the limits for drone operation.
Smeg just heading towards Shark Island there. They're going to have to do a jibe or a roundup, but either way, yep, bang, it does not look pretty. They are over right to windward of Shark Island. It is all on out here, and it is going to be very hard to get a full race in for anybody.
Oh well, we're here to cover it, whatever happens. She's a bit aquatic on the old camera cat too.
Around the point?
You know, enough wind speed that the water's lifting off the surface in the puffs, and the freeboard on the camera cat and the accommodation is not quite up to it. But anyway, pictures are working okay.
I can definitely think of worse ways to spend your Sunday than watching a few blokes try get around a racetrack like this. It is, it's so puffy, and it's going to be absolutely unreal. So I cannot get my eyes on Yandu at the moment. Bucko, can you see them anywhere?
Sending out a search party, aren't we?
So we've got our eyes, your eyes are on Smeg at the moment, capsized near Shark Island. We've got Whittings are making their way down to the racetrack. They've managed to bear away. That's not on the screen right now, but We are just trying to get out of the crazy weather. Unfortunately, the skiffs don't have that beautiful option.
Right. Yeah. So we're now hiding under Point Piper, which is not a bad spot actually.
Much more pleasant.
So, and for the viewers, the committee vessel is about 1 mile away from us over on the western shore of Rose Bay. Looks as if they've got signals up. How about that?
They're really close to the shore down in Rose Bay, so it is going to be quite a long run down between Shark Island and Point Piper for the downwind. But eyes are on the start boat. It does not look like I can see too many flags up, so I'm guessing that's a course-bearing flag, Bucko? There's a white flag and a red flag up. From where we are, we can't quite see it, but there are no skiffs there ready to start.
No. Last man standing so far.
Winnings are making their way down to the racetrack. Smeg is still trying to get their boat up in a big puff, but we have not got eyes on Yandu at the moment, so.
All the action in quite a small bit of water near Shark Island. Smeg getting out of the tide and winning group having succeeded in bearing away, running towards the start line. Can't quite make out the signals on the committee boat from the 1 mile range that we've got.
So we've got eyes on the committee boat on your screen at the moment. You can see that they are tucked right down near Rose Bay. So not much room for error when you're rounding that bottom mark, not much fetch before you hit the shore. So flicking over to winning group now, which are sort of coming towards us, trying to get out of a bit of the crazy weather and tuck under Point Piper.
They're looking fairly comfortable. So you'd expect they might get round, but they will have a few righting lever moments en route.
They're sitting in there a little bit, Bucko. Why are they doing that? Oh, they're going for jibe, that's why. Here we go. Oh,
and they've just eaten it. No, they haven't. They
good save.
It. But man overboard problem, and that doesn't usually end well. But no, yes, no.
The full goose swing, you know things are going well when someone's hanging out the back and the jib's goose swinging to the other side. But
they've got to somehow round up to get the bloke back on top of the wing. Getting towed along at about 12 knots.
They're going pretty quick for someone dragging in the water. That just gives you a bit of an indication about how windy it is out here today.
Tall tales and true.
There we go. Oh no, still hanging on off that wing for dear life. Don't know what the comms are on that boat, but maybe just get it down the course, round up, and then I'll get back on the boat.
Yeah, if they round up, they'll tip over though,
So speed is key in the drives, would you say, or slow jibe is not the way to go?
They should have granted it. This would be my advice. Just do another bear away. But anyway, I'm glad it's them and not me. And
so are we going to see spinnakers up in this race, or is it two sail?
No, I think it might be two sail downwind. And here's the thing, one thing that the reef mainsail does do is enable them to sail two sail downhill.
They can heat up a little bit.
Yeah. Look, and winning, and Yandu's come to join the party as well.
There we go. They were tucked in Willara, just hanging out. He's had plenty of experience out here in conditions like this.
I just went over to the Willara Sailing Club for a meat pie. Interesting. So two boats at the start line. Lisa, your young eyes, what are those flags?
Well, I can see a white flag and a red flag, but the red flag I'm thinking is a postponement flag.
The AP and winning group's just gone in the tide again.
And so I can't see any starting flags at the moment. So if I can see that red and white flag still up, I'm assuming that we're still under postponement.
No, it's probably the class flag and the AP. You're probably quite right. Winning and Yandu just flapping their way along the start line.
It's not really the conditions that you want to just be, chilling by the start line. I guess it's not even easy just to keep these 18s still in a day like today.
No such thing. No such thing. So viewers, unusual times at Sydney Harbour. We're all wet. The air temperature's 40 degrees. The wind's nearly 40 knots. What could go wrong?
It has been a pretty interesting season so far in terms of weather. It hasn't really been that easy. I think everyone seems to think that the classic Sydney sea breeze is what we get most of the time, but you haven't seen much of that this season?
No, we've had 2 races in nor'east, and the rest has been, you know, a couple of those nice raining southerlies, which are a bit unusual. But anyway, there was some, as I mentioned, there's some expectation that this is going to moderate, but looking upwind now, if anything, it's
just white. If we look upwind, it's just white, and that can give you some indication of just how windy it is.
Yeah.
The water is being blown off at the top by the wind, so I think we've got Smeg still capsized near Shark Island and no eyes on appliances online. So those other 2 skiffs that were trying to leave the shore we haven't seen near the start line yet. So right now 2 boats at the start, just hanging out, waiting for potential racing.
Yeah, well, when we were sort of preparing data pre-race, it looked as if, you know, the wind down further south from us at Montague Island, which is, you know, used to be a fairly famous ocean race, Sydney, Montague and home, 330 miles of torture at the beginning of spring. The wind strength down there wasn't too bad, but there were some readings from Jarvis Bay and from Port Kembla, which are up in the 40 plus, and it looks as if that's kind of come to pass here. This west-northwest wind really grumpy after passing over the Blue Mountains to get to Sydney, and so the boundary layer is as turbulent as anything you could possibly imagine. I think the committee will have to consider actually abandoning the race, I think, Lisa, unfortunately. Well, with only 1 race sailed in the championship as well, Tech 2 won the only race. Winning Group got disqualified, and Smeg didn't have a particularly good race. Royal Oak 4 Pines was pretty good, but there's only 2 boats in the vicinity of the start, and neither of them are upright.
Oh, Yandu's upright over
I'm sorry,
on the
Yandu
right,
is upright.
left-hand side of where we're looking. But it is the New South Wales State Championship, and there's 5 races of the series, with last week being race 1, this week being race 2. So still, they need 4 races to constitute a series. So even if they miss today, they can still get the full series in.
So committee boat's going to move the course up the harbour and perhaps try and fit a little tiny short track in on the southern side of the harbour where there might be less wind, but it doesn't have that feel to me. Lisa, how much wind do you sail that knacker in?
Oh, we're a bit weak on the knacker. We don't really go out past 25 knots. Oh, we don't race past 25 knots, but we've definitely sailed at about 28. Oh, so I went sailing on the 13-foot skiff yesterday, babies compared to the 18-foot skiff, and I did a few turns and was upside down quite a bit in the 2 races that I had yesterday, but that was plenty of breeze for me in the little 13, so I don't know how these guys are coping today.
But it was only good southeaster, wasn't it, or northeast?
Oh, it was westerly, gusty as, shifty as.
Okay, right.
We had, I reckon we had gusts of 30 yesterday at the bottom when I was trying to finish. That would be my guess, but
okay. So
definitely a lot windier today than it was yesterday.
You had the snorkel working.
Yeah, I'm getting better at riding the boat though, so practice does make perfect.
So we've got Yandu coming upwind, pursuing the or in advance of the committee vessel. to some degree, viewers, today we're constrained. If we get too much water on the deck of the camera cat, the electronics start to become dysfunctional for reasons which maybe electronics and salt water not working too well together. So we're having to hide. There's about a 2-foot wind chop, but the water blowing off the top of the waves in the puff, so we're just hiding ourselves and trying to
Just drift down with Yandu.
conserve.
Go to it.
Yandu is looking quite happy right now. I think moving on these boats is key.
And then straight into it. Yeah. We're going to be wearing someone. Get the cat over that way.
They're just taking things slow at the moment, but trying to keep the boat still is too hard. So they seem to be going for a little bit of a run while everyone else is upside down in the harbour.
So, Lisa, I've got the course signals on the boat. Is it 6/2 there? I think it is. So the committee is going, and the committee boat nearly sinking, in fact. The committee, as we kind of anticipated, a 2-lapper, windward leeward, and
as much as today is going to be a really tough day once we get the race off, these days are the ones that make for the good stories, and anyone that manages to get it round the course always comes back in with the biggest smile on their face. These survival conditions, I think, as a sailor, you sort of dread them, but you definitely love them. I bet you have some good survival stories, Bucko.
well, I would say that you never remember the race that you won in 6 knots of wind when you were crouching and running up and down the wing. You sure you remember the ones where there were only a few finishes in 40. And memorably, a long time ago, we did have a race when I sailed on the Colour 7 with Ian Murray and Don Buckley, where we were the sole finisher in about a 40-knot southerly, with Bluey Chapman and his crew of Andrew Gothard and Dave Stevens and John Winning with Grant Pollitt and Peter Gardner, the last other men standing, where they closed Sydney Harbour. We came up to the finish line with only the rescue boat from the 18-footer club and the water police escorting us. We had to heave 2 up the last beat for a while, all on trapeze with the jib held vaguely aback with everything else just flapping. And they did shorten the course by 2 legs for us, but that was the only concession. That one I will not forget. End over end twice on the last run. Everybody on trapeze couldn't get the bow up enough to unstall the jib.
Oh, Yandu still making their way up the racecourse. That looks like
and winning grip upright as well. So, Yandu is still going upwind. Winning group battling upwind. Wind speed every bit of 35. Looking out, we're just hiding in the lee of Point Piper on the camera boat. Winning group looking reasonably comfortable. Committee boat and spectators not so much.
There is an interesting flag on the committee boat, which could suggest that the race is abandoned.
Yep. Wow. And we have a...
So that blue and white checkered flag that I'm seeing is usually the abandoned flag, and as Yandu is making their way back up to the club, that would indicate that the race may be done for today. But we might hang up here and see Winning Group coming across over our shoulder. They have finally made it upright, and as Bucko said at the top of the show, it is a lot easier to go upwind than downwind on the 18-foot skiff.
Yeah, they're looking okay. I need a little tweak on the leach line. Lisa, will you go to Lewis and just sort that, please?
Bit flicky up the top there, and the jib is just fluttering away.
But they look comfortable. Life curve on the main doesn't look too bad.
Glad to see that all three crew members are back on board and having a good time.
Good time being a relative sort of term at this point, but...
Oh, they'll all be enjoying it once they get back to shore, but all...
Follow them. We're going to get wet.
Just head back.
Yeah. Yeah, just try and stay crosswind from them, yep.
So...
No, I'm saying go straight up. What are you saying? Go straight up wind.
So as you can see, the sail is absolutely ragging there. Everyone's just hanging on. You know, what do you do if you're on that boat, Bucko? Like, is there anything that you can do in these conditions, or are you just hanging on?
No, they just need to use the jib a bit more. And if the setup's good, that works, but that's really windy, isn't it? And I'm sure that our audio is not going too well. But the crew copping a good old bashing there. And they might have dropped the main sheet or something, I think.
Yeah, the main looks well out over the wing, but someone's just run in to get it.
Yep.
But just feathering the boat all the way upwind at the moment. Looks like just trying to point it into the breeze and feather it all the way back up. But, you know, they wouldn't be too happy that they've come out here to just head back in, but at least they gave it a red hot shot.
Yeah, they've had a go, and they've learned something about their little rig, you know.
The thing is, often you don't start races in breeze like this, but it is quite often that you might finish them, especially in a westerly or a southerly where it's building quite quickly. So even though they didn't get the race in, you're correct that they may have to deal with this in future races and just get the boat around the course.
Yeah.
You can probably see us hammering upwind on the camera cat right now. Copping a bit of chop as we head back towards the club, but we definitely have it a lot easier than on the 18. It is absolutely howling out here at the moment. It has picked up dramatically. And definitely was the right call to get everybody back to shore as soon as possible.
Sit back.
Enjoy.
Get off the boat.
What's wrong? What? Yeah, we're going to get the bow out. Get the bow out over there.
Go faster, mate. Faster, Vaughn. Go straight up to the island.
It is absolutely brutal out here on Sydney Harbour. So hats off to all the teams that thought they'd give it a good go. Winnings is over. They have just tried to tack, but once they tack over, they should be able to feather it back up into the club. Yandu showing everyone how it's done. They are heading back into the club now, nice and safe. But yeah, not a good day for a sailboat race. You rarely see Sydney Harbour this out of control.
So the committee elected for a bit of self-preservation and preservation for the crews. On the camera cat, we're electing for a bit of preservation of our equipment. We've all been wet before, we've wet again. happy that the air temperature's up in the 40s.
We are heading back into shore at the moment, and Yandu is just cruising in. They're going fine. I think that they definitely won the day, in my opinion.
It ain't over yet, Liz. They got to get the thing back onto the land, which is pretty difficult, as you would imagine.
I still have a 20-minute lead on anyone else, so
Yeah.
that's experience for you.
Yeah, and you know, as you would know, everybody's learnt quite a bit today. We have, the crews have. It's a good thing. So, viewers, that's going to be the end of the aquatic action for today. Pretty punk, Lise, yeah.
Short and sweet, that's for sure.
Yeah. But a couple of queries from last week. First one about boats who have been OCS under the U flag and are therefore disqualified, continuing to race, and interfering or getting entangled with competitors who started legally. So the rule, it has been changed from what it was sort of last century, more or less, that even under the black flag rule, you're entitled to finish the race and seek redress if you think you were on the right side of the starting line. And so what we saw last week was a couple of boats who were on the wrong side, including Winning Group, and port and starboard between Tech 2 and Winning Group, and Tech 2 had to do a penalty turn. Narrow cross that didn't quite come off. But Tech 2 did their penalty turn and won the race legally, and Winning Group was disqualified. So that is, that rule is different to how it was for most of my sailing career, but this is the modern. So under the U flag or the black flag, and then there's another flag, the Y flag, for a 20% penalty.
And I guess the
Place
thing
penalty.
to note with the U flag and the black flag is it's within the last minute. It's not necessarily at the gun, but if you're over within the last minute, that's it.
Thanks, Lisa, for that little clarification. And then one of our viewers in Hong Kong wondering about, I think, about efficient VMG running. So, and this is a little bit complicated, but with the big rig in, fastest VMG at about 12 knots is to use all the riding moment, so all the crew extended fully on the wing on trapeze because of the size of the chute and the optimum sort of unstall of that sail. And as the breeze is lighter than that, sort of what we'd call the design wind speed kind of thing, in 8 knots, there's a bit of a judgment call about how much riding moment to use, and the crews develop a bit of a rough rule of thumb about the optimum sheeting for the spinnaker, i.e. spinnaker not sheeted any harder with the clue further back than some particular location. And then they adjust the riding moment accordingly, leaving the sheet relatively still. And so equally for the small rig, full riding moment is optimum VMG running with the jibe angle and so forth at about 16 knots true wind, and all wind strengths above that, up to unsailable, which is what we saw today, you use all the riding moment, and there is a point at which you're struggling to unstall the spinnaker when in about 30 knots with a spinnaker, it becomes unstable for lack of attached flow, which is an interesting phenomena. And you see that in a keelboat as well at times. If you've got a full-size chute up in about 35 knots, you'll experience that as well. So, viewers, we hope that answers your questions. Lisa, could have been a good day for training in the NAC. Oh, no, you don't start, do you? That's all right. But that was pretty sticky wind, and we did see a bit there when they abandoned the race of perhaps 40, I think, yep.
Yeah, it was definitely up there. As I said on the way in when we were getting smashed, it's very rare that you see Sydney Harbour that out of control.
Yeah.
Definitely one of the most extreme days on the harbour I've seen in quite a while.
So, folks, it's been an entertaining hour for us on the Camera Cat. A little damper, a little wiser. The tech stuff's held up, that's a miracle. But I don't think it would have held up for 3 laps or 2 laps or whatever the committee was going to make us do. So from the camera cat, I think we're saying good night, good day, good afternoon for another week. We'll go and have a cold beer and a warm shower, approximately in that order. So Jono, on today on the camera cat, thanks Jono, AeroMedia, Michael Chittenden, Anthony Rose, Vaughan Woolridge and Lisa Darmanin. I'm Andrew Buckland, camera cat, looking forward to your company next week.